Here is a common truth. Sometimes the most popular news is not necessarily the most important, while truly significant news may not always gain widespread attention. This contrast is particularly pronounced within the Chinese Communist Party system. Yesterday, Japan's Kyodo News reported a brief yet noteworthy story. The CCP has notified Japan of its intention to remove previously installed buoys near the Diaoyu Islands, called Senkaku Islands in Japanese. Chinese state media have remained silent on the matter, and people living in mainland China are almost entirely unaware of this news. However, along with the announcement of visa-free entry to China for Japanese passport holders, this marks a significant moment. The CCP has officially capitulated and shown submission to Japan. Hey China watchers, welcome to China Insights. My name is Ben Hedges, and on this channel we cover some of the most gripping news and current affairs stories from China. If you like the sound of that, do subscribe to the channel. And now let's get into the story. Kyodo News has reported that the CCP has officially notified Japan of its intention to remove buoys near the Diaoyu or Senkaku Islands. According to the report, the CCP stated that this move aims to ease tensions between the two countries. Although the buoys have not yet been removed, Japanese diplomatic sources revealed that Japan has urged the CCP to immediately remove all such buoys, and it is about to happen. This news has not been reported by any domestic Chinese media. As many of you know, CCP news has a peculiar characteristic. The fewer the words in a report, the more significant the matter. If an issue isn't reported at all, it's even more significant. This reflects the CCP's awareness of the sensitivity or embarrassment of the issue. Why is this? These buoys are located entirely within the waters considered to be Japan's exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, and were first installed as early as 2013. In February 2013, the Japanese government confirmed for the first time that the CCP had deployed buoys up to 10 meters high or 30 feet high near the Diaoyu or Senkaku Islands, specifically on the Japanese side of the China-Japan Meridian Line. The Japanese Coast Guard promptly photographed and documented the buoys, lodging a diplomatic protest accusing the CCP of violating the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and Japanese domestic laws. At the time, the CCP's leading media outlet, the People's Daily Online, claimed that the buoys were for meteorological observation, dismissing Japanese concerns as mere overreactions. However, these buoys are not just politically significant due to the sovereignty dispute, but also hold military value. They are equipped with precision communication instruments that can use sonar to identify the engine sounds of Japanese submarines, thereby tracking the underwater movements of Japanese subs around the Diaoyu Islands. These buoys also monitor oceanic environmental changes and vessel activity, strengthening real-time surveillance of the disputed waters to provide data for potential diplomatic or military actions. Thus, this act carries both immense political symbolism, asserting sovereignty, and practical military utility. It is important to note that the CCP's deployment of the buoys marked an escalation in unilateral changes to the status quo, coinciding with Xi Jinping's rise to power, which also happened in 2013. That's when he assumed office. Since then, the CCP has installed additional buoys in 2016 and 2018, exasperating Sino-Japanese disputes. By March this year, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa publicly stated that Japan was considering forcibly removing or relocating those buoys. In other words, after 10 years of diplomatic negotiations, protests, and other efforts without resolution, Japan has decided to abandon verbal exchanges and take unilateral decisive actions. Understanding this background, we can see that the CCP's sudden willingness to remove the buoys, even without a direct conflict with Japan, mirrors its substantial retreat at the China-India border and subsequent agreements with India. Both are classic examples of capitulation and appeasement. The real purpose in both cases is the same: relinquishing territorial sovereignty disputes to improve and ease relations. In fact, the CCP's rare submission to Japan goes beyond this one instance. On November 22nd, the CCP's Ministry of Foreign Affairs suddenly announced the unilateral restoration of visa-free entry for Japanese ordinary passport holders, effective November 30th, permitting stays of up to 30 days in China with no visa. This announcement shocked many Chinese citizens who believed hating Japan was justifiable. Outrage ensued, leading to viral videos of people laying flowers at the Chinese Expeditionary Force Cemetery in Tengchong in Yunnan province. Tens of thousands of comments overwhelmingly expressed sentiments such as, "This is unacceptable. This hurts so much I cannot breathe." And if you don't know the background of the whole Chinese nationalist hating on the Japanese thing, it's pretty much encouraged by the government in China and has led to a pretty tense opposition of all things Japanese in China. Here are some other examples. In October, on China's Sanya beach, the police were called because a woman was wearing a Japanese kimono. Her outfit made Chinese citizens so furious that they called the police to arrest and remove her. In the recent China-Japan soccer match held in China, there was one single Japanese fan who dared to attend, and he was attacked by Chinese team supporters as soon as he entered the vicinity of the stadium. Police intervened, but the crowd shouted, "Traitors." A Chinese citizen made this toilet seat cover in the design of the Japanese flag and filmed it with the Japanese national anthem playing. And then we have Chinese nationalism so strong that Chinese citizens are filming themselves stomping on the flags of their three most hated countries. You get the idea. Nationalism is extreme in China, and thus even Japan was surprised at the CCP's recent behavior. The Japanese government had previously requested the restoration of visa-free entry multiple times, but the CCP constantly insisted on adhering to the principle of reciprocity, requiring Japan to grant the same visa-free treatment to Chinese citizens. However, Japan refused due to the high proportion of fraud and theft cases involving Chinese nationals, as well as domestic political pressure on the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. Now the CCP on its own has restored visa-free access to China with no reciprocal agreement in place. Today our focus is not on who has sovereignty over the Diaoyu Islands or whether Japan's refusal to grant visa-free entry to Chinese citizens is discriminatory. Instead, we will examine how the CCP, after previously portraying sovereignty over the Diaoyu Islands and issues like reciprocal visa policies and Japan's discharge of treated nuclear water as non-negotiable principles, suddenly made an about-face, humiliatingly backed down. What caused this shift, and what does it signify? From resuming imports of Japanese seafood to unilaterally granting visa-free entry, and now to the removal of buoys in the waters near the Diaoyu Islands, each of these moves represents a significant blow to the CCP's own credibility. From this series of actions, we can see the CCP's intense urgency to drastically improve Sino-Japanese relations. So why has the CCP suddenly bowed to Japan, a country that it has been most reluctant to yield to? The fundamental reason is actually very simple: the imminent rise of the Trump administration in the US. In the foreseeable future, the Trump cabinet is expected to impose comprehensive, intensified suppression and containment of the CCP across political, economic, technological, and military domains. Facing worsening crises both domestically and internationally, the CCP feels a strong sense of existential threat and is desperate to quickly improve relations with neighboring countries, particularly those closely allied with the United States. Fundamentally, this strategy aims to use these countries as buffers to dilute and weaken the strength of the US-Japan and US-India alliances. The CCP's humiliating submission with complete disregard for the sentiments of its nationalist supporters further proves another point. The CCP's long-term rhetoric of anti-Japanese and anti-American sentiment is fundamentally a false narrative. These sentiments are merely tools to serve the CCP's political interests. This about-face represents a fundamental shift in Xi Jinping's foreign policy. The core of Xi's international strategy lies in the four characters anti-Japanese and anti-American, 仇日反美, which are the simplest and most direct manifestation of the so-called East Rising, West Declining strategy. Moreover, this policy reversal likely does not originate from Xi Jinping's own intentions. I understand that many in the audience may still find it difficult to accept our analysis that Xi's power is being diminished, but we feel that this is only going to become more obvious over time. This conclusion is based on observable facts rather than speculation, and we have reported on this situation in multiple videos over the past few weeks. Of course, even if Xi Jinping is sidelined, as long as the CCP system remains intact, its essence will not change, nor will its ultimate goals. The current capitulation is merely a temporary measure for survival amidst crisis. Once the CCP recovers and regains its footing, as long as it holds on to power, it will inevitably reassert itself. So what do you think about all of these things? Do you agree with our analysis? Or why do you think the CCP suddenly gave in to Japan? Leave your comments below. Please subscribe to the channel for more China insights, and if you like Chinese culture, in addition to China news, check out my other channel, Learn Chinese Now, where you can find documentaries about Chinese history. I'll put a couple of them on screen now. Here are a load of the real locations in China from the game Black Myth Wukong, and here are 5 of the greatest battles in Chinese history. Enjoy.